from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Let me fix that. There you go. There you go. The power of fathers. You're about to listen to 2 hours of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We're not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, or either of us hold a doctorate degree in anything. Not that that would make any difference this day and age. Our opinion, of course. We only ask that you personally and or corporately not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do we recommend that you act on them as if they are facts, although they might very be just that, facts. But again, our opinion. You're not required to listen to, act on, repeat anything that you hear today, nor assume that they are facts, that any information we present is by no means meant to harm or threaten anyone. In this day and age, you have to have disclaimers like that. Or
it's just like putting warning labels on your window screen that you put in the windshield of your car, telling you have to remove it before driving.
Yep.
I mean, that's the mentality we're at, isn't it?
Yep. We're lighting the candles this morning, folks. We're not going to curse the darkness. I was listening to a little bit of Fox this morning. See, is a ceasefire on or off? And did you know that the Ayatollah, Iran, destroyed 14 bunker bombs with just, I think, 2 or 3 nuclear facilities? Huh? Did you know that? The Coburg trial, the Diddy trial, nothing about the Scott Shira trial.
One of the most important going.
Yep.
Or gone now, I guess.
Or we could talk about dating apps or trade negotiations with Canada. Big, beautiful bill. Make America healthy again. Nah. We're going to talk about what's real, folks.
Don't forget about Bezos' wedding.
Oh, shoot. I missed that, didn't I? Dang it. Oh, well. That's the way it goes. Great guest today. Great subject matters. First hour, we're going to talk about fathers. And it is something that I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. And I'm okay, you're okay. I remember the indoctrination classes that I got, and I didn't even realize what was happening. But the goal, I believe, was to neuter men, and then the next step was to feminize them. Emotionally, and if we take a look at the foods we're eating, maybe physically, huh?
Oh my goodness.
And then, of course, no fault divorce. Wow. Get into a relationship with 1 foot out the door. Huh? Any kind of problems? But I don't want a divorce. Judge says doesn't make any difference. That party does. You pay. But no fault divorce. And I'm going to decide. Go ahead.
It takes 2 to agree to marriage and 1 to disagree.
Yeah. That's interesting that we get into business contracts that way. Or maybe treaties that way. Who knows?
Yeah. We changed our mind.
The importance of fathers, folks. The importance of fathers. And in the second hour, Mike Kerr, really looking forward to talking to Mike. He's got a great story. And folks, he's in the game. And that's why you're listening to this program, because we want you to get in the game. We're going to tell you where to engage, how to engage. This Thursday, I got an email from the local library, which just raised my taxes, by the way. And it was about how terrible it is that we're denying children books that question their gender.
Oh my goodness.
With pictures, and how awful it is, and how the state of Ohio is going to pass a bill that's going to make it even harder to do that sort of thing. Oh, and the new librarian from out west, surprise, surprise. I sent an email out asking folks to talk to the librarian, talk to their fellow citizens in our city. And then I saw a NBC4 here in Columbus, Ohio, story about Obergefell. Obergefell's from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. A decision 10 years ago, and celebrating that, how concerning it is that there's an effort to try to change gay marriage. 5 minutes, one-sided, pro-LGBTQ, surprise, surprise. So I sent another email out to about 200 people. And I said, hey, especially if you're in Ohio, you might want to contact, and I gave them contact information, the local station. And the local station is going to have a special this coming Sunday on the same subject. They'll be spending a half an hour on it. And it, again, will be one-sided. Folks, when you make decisions based on information. If you only have one side of the information, or if you're blasted with one side of the information before you ever even see the other side of the information, you have a bias that you're going to have to overcome. Mr. Anderson's a teacher. He could tell you that once you tell a student this, it's going to take maybe 10 to 100 times. Isn't true?
It's true. Yeah. Yep. Once the seed is planted, it's hard to uproot it.
Yep. We're making, especially you white Christian male folks, you're just discriminating, and you're hurting all kinds of people. Shame on you. And I saw another on the neighborhood news, or the neighborhood application, online application. Somebody was saying, how come nobody ever talks about Christianity on this? And man, you should have seen the responses. Vile responses.
Really?
Yeah, but they can have those kind of responses. First of all, as Christians, we just kind of, at best, hold our nose. But at worst, we just stick our head down the ostrich hole, not knowing what's exposed, and thinking that it's going to be okay. Again, they're hearing all kinds of negatives about the truth, and then they associate the truth with Christianity, surprise, surprise, with natural laws, surprise, surprise, and we can't have that. We don't want that. Remember the Garden of Eden? Remember? God gave man a perfect world, and he and his missus said, okay, we'll take it from here, and look where we are today. Look where we are today. This isn't hopeless, by the way. And all these negatives that you see out in the world, quote unquote, those are opportunities, folks. They are vivid opportunities. What you see being done to our children. I can't believe that we allow children to be mutilated the way we do.
Absolutely no sense in that whatsoever.
Yeah. And promote it. We promote it. Or we're afraid that as Christians we might offend somebody when we tell them the truth. We can't have that, okay? You know, makes Jesus look bad, doesn't it?
I saw JC in here. Well, he's not there now, but I heard a little bit of his story. He was sharing about a mother having trouble with her 15-year-old son.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a serious problem, and parents, they don't know how to take charge of their children. Well,
they don't know to take charge of their children.
Well, yeah, they don't know to, or they don't know how, or they're afraid.
That's the job of public schools. That's the job of public schools. JC, hop in here, bud. You have a young gentleman, 15 years old, that is fatherless.
Yep. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I've chatted with her a few times about what to do and things to try.
Mom.
Yeah. I was supposed to walk to school one morning here for summer school. Well, she couldn't get him a ride there. So she said, well, I'm going to walk him to school. I said, walk him? I mean, they live right in town, and the school's across the other side of town here. I mean, it's maybe 20 blocks. She said, well, he has depression and anxiety, and he doesn't want to walk by himself. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But no dad in the picture. Lays around his bedroom all the time, doesn't want to come out. And in Mount Vernon, if you walk to school here, it's not like you're walking downtown Columbus and going to run into a bunch of people. He probably ain't going to see nobody on his walk to school. But she walks clear over there and walks back home to get him to summer school. Great.
And no father in the picture.
Nope.
Does his father ever visit with him? Do you know?
I don't know yet. I haven't heard. Haven't heard anything about the father yet. Nothing, not a word. And she won't bring it up. It's like, but I just been seeing commercials on the TV lately. They're running commercials. And mom and that boy sitting around there in their apartment just watching TV or whatever, doing nothing. But there's a commercial out there that talks about teen kids in schools with depression and anxiety. And you got to be their friend. It's just, oh my goodness. You just want to throw something through the TV screen.
Like never before, folks, in terms of children and mental illness. It's like never before. And it's not getting any better. And part of that, we're gonna show a little video this morning and probably definitely make some comments on it. Fathers, listen, a child, there should be a law, has a right to their biological mother and biological father. They need them. They need the father to tell them they're okay. And they need the mother to tell them okay. They need to see them in a leadership role. Leadership shouldn't be the government. It shouldn't be the schools. They should learn authority right in the home. It's tough to do if there's no dad there. It's tough to do if mom and dad are there fighting one another. And what does the child learn then? If they're both fighting each other. We are so far off base. As goes the family, so goes the nation. And I can make the statement that as goes the father, so goes the family. As goes the family, so goes the church. As goes the church, so goes the nation. Folks, the problems we're having today boil right back down to the family. There's a lot of things that need fixed. There's a lot of symptoms as a result of this. And yes, I'm not saying don't fix the symptoms. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm telling you that if you're not focusing on the family as well, reestablishing, make it a law in America that the government can't mess with families. Yeah, I know. There are exceptions, but in America today, our laws are more the exceptions than the rule. It used to be the law was the rule, and then there were exceptions, a few exceptions. But that's not what we're doing today, especially when it comes from the family. No fault divorce? Are you kidding me? What kind of relationship is that? Mr. Anderson, can we take a break and then I'll give a short comment on what's happening in New York? And I want to get into
New York. Okay, short break.
Yes, sir.
You need to hear this. The destruction of the family is the destruction of the Western world.
We're being infiltrated. We're being occupied. America is being occupied.
Yes.
By several different factions. America, the laws of nature and nature's God. That is what the Constitution is about. This was established as a Christian nation. And the further we get away from that, the closer we come to being in the junk heap of countries like Greece and Rome, etc. One of the occupiers of America is a religion. And I thought of that when I saw what happened in New York this week in the primary, where Mamdani, a Muslim gentleman, a socialist Muslim gentleman. At least that's what he's running on. He has some suggestions, by the way, for what's going to happen to New York when he gets elected mayor. First of all, Times Square will be renamed Red Square. It'll also be the official site of mass executions going forward, probably mostly Christian males. He's going to create a spatial camps where the city's Jewish population can be concentrated for their own good, authorizing the development of state-run shoplifting centers. Subways will be free for everyone. That's the transportation and the sandwiches. The Yankees uniform will now be rainbow striped. He's going to raise the minimum wage to $150,000 a year. Queens will be repopulated with Palestinian refugees, and whites only will be taxed. As goes New York, so goes the nation. Ooh, boy. This is very, very interesting, folks. It's very telling.
So this guy actually got nominated for the Democratic candidate for mayor.
Yes, sir.
Based on those things you just said.
Well, that's a little Babylon Beach. Okay.
Okay.
But it's not that far from the truth.
I get you.
The Yankee stripes aren't going to happen because we're talking about a Muslim, and they're not going to promote gay pride. There's going to be some waking up if he gets into office, and there's going to be some infiltration. There's going to be a lot of people leaving, but they're going to be replaced. Wow, wow, wow. Speaking of replaced, how can we replace the fathers in America? How important are fathers in America? Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Well, yeah, the fathers are replaced by not being there.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they're replaced with. Maybe Game Boys or
the state's the daddy. The state will dictate what they can do, what they can't do.
The school programs and things that.
Yep. So let's hear about the fathers. How important are they?
Oh, I was reading a comment from Betty. Well, it's a tough job for one parent, no matter what gender they are, to raise a child. And when you add 2 or 3 or more, I don't know how it's done. I know single parents who have done it. I'm married to one, and going to work every day and coming home and preparing meals and checking homework and all of that stuff, that's not a job for one adult.
And somebody's going to fill in that blank. And it's going to be a stranger. It already is a stranger in government-run schools and the indoctrination centers. Let's play that clip on the family, and I can start and stop this anytime I want, right, Mr. Anderson?
Fathers Matter, that one?
Yep. Well, I don't know till I try, so let's play her.
It is also the engine driving our most urgent social problems. Yet, despite its scale and social consequences, fatherlessness is a problem.
Sorry, I got to restart it.
Fatherlessness is the leading cause of declining child well-being in our society. It is also the engine driving our most urgent social problems. Yet, despite its scale and social consequences, fatherlessness is a problem that is frequently ignored or denied. Families are microcosms of society. Strong and stable families contribute to social flourishing, while dysfunctional families push society in the direction of breakdown. More than at any point in history, the family unit is broken, as a significant number of children are growing up without a father. In this video, drawing from the research of the American sociologist David Popenoe, we explore how absent fathers are harming children and destroying society, and how this problem can be solved. Based on the evidence, a strong case can be made that paternal deprivation, in the form of the physical, economic, and emotional unavailability of fathers to their children, has become the most prevalent form of child maltreatment today, writes David Popenoe. Fathers are vanishing from family life, and only mothers are left to care about their children. And mothers are not enough. Approximately 40% of children are born to unmarried mothers. Over 50% of marriages end in divorce, with the mother, more often than not, being granted custody of the children. Even in families where the father is physically present, many are not emotionally present in the lives of the children. Many fathers are addicted to their smartphones or to drugs or alcohol. Others are forced to work long hours or multiple jobs to provide for their family in the face of the ever-declining purchasing power of money. But whether emotionally or physically absent, the problem of absent fathers has reached endemic proportions, and a mother cannot fill a fatherless void. For men and women possess innate biological differences that translate into different yet complementary parenting styles.
There's a difference between a man and a woman. I think JC wanted to make a comment. I'll let you in here in a second. That difference is notable. One of the things that has happened, not only have we taken the father out of the home or one of the parents out of the home, we're replacing them with individuals, males, who are trying to play the role of a female, and females that are trying to play the role of a male. What's going to happen when that child wakes up when they're 20, 25, 30 years old? What's going to happen to them? Are they going to feel guilty? Are they going to feel betrayed? And if so, what are they going to do to themselves or possibly others? JC, go ahead.
Wasn't there some kind of a mandate left for churchgoers to occupy till I return?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Huh? So
Yeah.
I just think about this. You're talking about all this. We got over on Gamber Street in Mount Vernon, I got 3 houses, one after another, and then 9 doors down, there's another one. There's 4 rainbow flags on that block over there on the front porches of these houses. And the first one on the corner is the pastor of the UCC church here in Mount Vernon. It's in his yard. I stopped there a couple weeks ago, and when I got out of my car, walked up on his sidewalk and took a picture of his gay flag on his porch. And then he's got the Black Lives Matter sign in his yard. We believe. Then over on the other corner of the house, I seen another sign. I'm going to stop back and take another picture of it. It says, "Public education matters." In the yard of the the church. Now, he's married with a wife and kids, yet he's promoting all this nonsense. I mean, it's ridiculous. But that tells you what they're doing in the schools when the pastor of the gay church has got that education sign in his front yard.
He's being inclusive. Thanks, Jeff. He's being very inclusive. We need to pay attention to that, folks. We need to be more inclusive. Back to our story.
Women are more compassionate and relationship-oriented, while men are more competitive, aggressive, and oriented towards risk-taking and self-reliance. Mothers provide children with a nurturing, safe, and emotionally secure environment, while fathers challenge their children, push their boundaries, and help them cultivate autonomy. As psychological health is contingent on adequately satisfying the need for both independence and relatedness, challenge and emotional security, risk-taking and safety, a developing child needs to be exposed to both the paternal and maternal worlds, or as Popenoe explains, the significance of gender-differentiated parenting undoubtedly is related to something fundamental in the human condition. Parental androgyny is not what children need. Males and females bring different qualities to children. The burden of social science evidence supports the idea that gender-differentiated parenting is important for human development, and that the contribution of fathers to child-rearing is unique and irreplaceable. Unfortunately, stepfathers are not a reliable solution to the problem of fatherlessness, as stepchildren are often worse off than children of single mothers. The lack of genetic ties can make a stepfather reluctant to invest time, energy, and resources into the child's development, and some stepfathers are prone to seeing their stepchildren as competition for the mother's attention. One of the surprising findings of family-related research in recent years is that the presence of stepfathers may actually aggravate child-rearing problems and thereby increase the level of negative child outcomes, explains Popenoe. In two of his books, Families Without Fathers and The War Over the Family, David Popenoe summarizes the abundance of studies which demonstrate that children who grow up without a physically present and emotionally committed biological father are at a greater risk of suffering from emotional, behavioral, and physical health problems. They are less likely to succeed educationally, more likely to be socially impaired, and as adults more prone to dysfunctional relationships. Girls of absent fathers are more likely to become single teen mothers. Boys are more likely to become criminals and moral deviants. This list only scratches the surface of the known negative outcomes of growing up absent a father. Indeed, almost anything bad that can happen to a child occurs with much greater frequency to the children of divorce and those who live in single-parent families, explains Popenoe. Following divorce, the quality and quantity of the time that children spend with their fathers sharply declines. In the book Divided Families, Frank Furstenberg and Andrew Cherlin explain that after a few years of a divorce, only 1 in 10 children have weekly contact with their fathers, while 2/3 have no contact at all. Yet even with divorced fathers who maintain contact, most often it is a sporadic and superficial contact that is of little to no benefit to the child. In other words, while the mother-child bond is a primal bond that is rarely, if ever, broken, a man's bond to his children is heavily dependent on whether he is still in a relationship with the mother. Men tend to view marriage and child-rearing as a single package, writes Popenoe. If their marriage deteriorates, their fathering deteriorates. If they are not married or are divorced, their interest in and sense of responsibility toward children greatly diminish. It is because men tend to view marriage and fatherhood as a single package that virtually every society in history has placed great emphasis on the institution of marriage, the primary function of which is to create socially binding ties which hold a man to his wife for the benefit of the children. Or as Popenoe writes, men have the capacity to father, but also the capacity to stray. So all successful societies have imposed social sanctions on men to encourage their fathering behavior. By far the most important of these sanctions is the institution of marriage, the most universally found social institution of all. Up until the mid-20th century, marriage was held to be a sacred contract between a man and woman that was only broken in the most extreme of situations. Since then, the institution of marriage has rapidly deteriorated. Today, many people avoid marriage, and of those who do marry, divorce is the statistical norm. If one were specifically to design a culture and a social system for the express purpose of undercutting marriage and fatherhood and men's contribution to family life, our current society would be close to what would result, observes Popenoe. The sexual revolution, which commenced in the 1960s, was a major factor in the decline of marriage. Under the guise of sexual liberation, promiscuity was normalized, and with more females willing to engage in low-commitment sexual relations, more men renounced monogamy and marriage in favor of sleeping around. The damage that the sexual revolution inflicted on marriage, fatherhood, and the family was one of its intended outcomes. In summarizing the ideas of Wilhelm Reich and Herbert Marcuse, two of the intellectual drivers of the sexual revolution, Carl Trueman explains, sex focused on procreation and family life is the repressive weapon of bourgeois capitalist society, and free love and untrammeled sexual experimentation are a central part of the revolutionary liberation of society. To transform society politically, one must transform society sexually. The sexual mores of late capitalism, focused as they are on the maintenance of monogamy and the patriarchal family, are actually no longer as necessary as they once were. A societal-wide deterioration in values has also weakened the institution of marriage. Responsibility and commitment to others have fallen by the wayside and been replaced by a narcissistic obsession with ego fulfillment. While in the past the main function of marriage was to create an economic and reproductive partnership for the sake of raising healthy children, Today, marriage is seen almost exclusively as a vehicle for satisfying one's needs and desires, and the myth that romantic love can solve one's problems remains pervasive. When feelings of infatuation or love wane, therefore, or when a partner feels unfulfilled or incomplete, then divorce, even when children are involved, has become the socially approved solution. Or as Pope
Folks, we're gonna continue this after the break, but think about what you're seeing in America today, be it on TV, be it in the streets. What children today, if they're not in therapy, are in the streets. If they're not in the streets, they're in prison. We have, I think, something close to 50% of children living in homes that don't have both biological parents. This insanity, when I see what's going on in the streets and the riots, etc., and the young children, what they're saying, what their belief system is, it breaks my heart. In order to stop this, we have to recognize the importance of the family. What was the first institution that God created for the benefit of man? As family. Why? Flip of a coin? Let's see. Family, church, state. I don't know. Family, purposely. It's foundational. And it was one man and one woman intended to be that way. There's certain things that happen physically, mentally, because of the difference. And when you have children, wow, does that ever change things? Does that ever add a new meaning to the term love? Let's take a break, Mr. Anderson. When we come back, I'll open it up for any comments anybody wants to make, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish the video. Fathers are critical.
You need to hear this. The destruction of the family is the destruction of the Western world.
Bummer.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
This is something, that video, that you need to share with folks. The family is so critical, and fathers are critical. And by the way, how they respond as a father as well. You can have, I'll let you in a moment, Dick. I'll give you an example of one I know. The father was abusive, used to beat the mother. The daughters from that family, every one of them developed a relationship with a man. And you know what the common denominator was? That's right. They were all physically abusive. Welcome aboard, Mr. Manasari. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, thank you. Listen, I just want to make a comment. The first thing that when you started talking about it, I was thinking about it geopolitically. Remember, the first thing that Lenin did after the revolution in Russia, the Soviet Union, the very first law that was passed was to make it much easier to get a divorce. So think about the idea that the people that want to change the world want the state to replace the father.
Yes.
And it was evidence to see that the first thing they did in Soviet Russia was to make it easier for divorce to happen. And to me, that's meaningful.
And telling, very telling.
Yeah.
They understand, if they understand it, if communists understand it, if the LGBTQ community understand it, why don't you?
Well, I think we've been indoctrinated. Keep in mind that, and again, the biblical reference here is critical. The family was supposed to take care of a whole lot of things. The family government, then the church government took over for stuff. And the very last was a very small set of functions for civil government. And you've had Pastor Whitney on, and I know that Pastor Whitney talks about this all the time. The civil government is supposed to be very, very small. Many, many things, including education, are supposed to be taken care of by the family.
Yep.
We have the opposite now. We have families that are broken, and monstrous government. Think of the size of the U.S. government and all the things that it does that the Constitution never intended it to do.
One big, beautiful government, right?
Right. With all kind of details in there, including the unregulated artificial intelligence, which will be the ultimate
Oh boy,
big government control. You won't even be able to find families in a technocracy. You'll have people making decisions from human beings from birth till death by a government that totally disrespects the family and the individual and just wants to stay in power.
the stage is set. Norm, your comments, please.
Well, first off, evil understands the Bible much better than Christians do.
Mm.
And evil understands how to destroy the family. And again, they go after the man. And of course, as we've said 100 times, the family is the base from which all things flow. And your concept of God, your concept of life, your anxiety level, your fear level, all of that is set within the family. And of course, when the dad is not there, who plays a vital role, for the boys and the girls, it's not just for the boys, it's for the girls too. And of course, again, when that child's needs not met, it turns to hurt, and then that turns to anger. JC was talking about that young fella, staying in his room all the time. He's angry. And then anger leads on to depression and so we've got our work cut out for us trying to get men to do their role. Of course, one of the main problems that I saw as a counselor too is couples go into marriage with the wrong idea. They go into it for what they can get out of it. We guys, we want a good looking gal, and built well, pretty, and that we think will cook and clean and, raise her kids. And then she's looking for somebody that's strong and provider. In other words, we go into it for what we can get out of it. And that's the absolute wrong idea about going into marriage, because, Jesus said, if you're going to try to be first, you're going to wind up last. And so that's just a biblical principle that we've got to go into a relationship for what we can put into it. And my role as a counselor, when I could get the man to try to serve his wife and the wife to serve her husband, and then each one communicate what they needed, it worked really, really good. But when we go into it for what we can get, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, that happens with children as well. I mean,
Sure.
it's not about your feelings; it's about the child's needs. And a child will. There's a lot of ways they can react to it, but when there isn't that mother or father, there's a vacuum created, and they will try to fill that vacuum with anything, and it's strong stuff. Okay, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be gangs, whatever they try to fill it with, it never gets filled.
And one of the problems, when a couple divorces, and typically the woman gets the kids,
Yep.
and then she understands that the kid needs a dad, so they begin to back off of discipline and they back off of structure, which makes the problem worse and makes the child act out more and more, and so that's another problem.
Yep, Betty. Wake up. All right.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm awake and I'm listening. And also I agree that marriages need to have husbands, but sometimes the husband just wants that cute girl. Then they have children. Then my wife isn't as slender.
Yeah.
So let's go look for somebody else, and then sometimes the husbands are abusive. I had to go through a divorce, and it was the hardest thing for me to do because I didn't believe in it. But when you're in an abusive situation where your life is on, at stake, sometimes you need to do that. And so I had to be, sad to say, daddy and mommy, But my son turned out really well. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He doesn't go out and party with his friends. He's there, with the kid, and the twins are coming along, so he helps his wife, you know. So he turned out really well for the situation he was in, because he said, I'll never be like my dad, you know. So you know, his dad messed around, his dad was abusive, so thank God for that.
Hey, good doing there. Mr. Anderson, and before you get on, Mr. Anderson, marriage is an opportunity to give. It needs to be looked at it that way. It's an opportunity to give, not to take, but to give. And you don't know, you have no idea what kind of a reward you get when you give. It is an incredible, great feeling when you give. It is. Just try to practice it. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Well, piggyback off of what Betty is talking about, that's a real problem in our society. Having fathers dedicated to the idea of having a family, and we've discussed this a lot already, that you get into marriage for what you can get out of it, and a selfish motive. I think that when trying to solve a problem and looking for doers and people who get involved, looking for these families and coming alongside of a family that's in trouble, as Betty described, I think that's a major responsibility that many churches ignore. And I think that's the place where the church steps in and brings in the elders or other people, not groups, not, you know, but, you know, people that will step aside and say, hey, to the father, hey, you are not living up to your responsibility here. Let me help you think of a way where you can fit in better. And women or other elders also stepping alongside with the women and helping them cope with the situation where they're having a hard time. And I really believe that that's very important for the church to assume that responsibility. It's good for the church too, if they can hold families together and keep the family within the protection of a larger family, the church.
So instead of the government, we should go to the church? Is that what you're trying to tell us, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I think we got to put the government out of work.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I'd like to say one thing and then I'll keep quiet.
Don't keep quiet. You got a lot to share.
You know, if you're going to find somebody equally yoked. You know, I thought both guys that I did marry were loved the Lord, but then I found out they didn't. So make sure you're marrying your best friend and you're equally yoked, because if you don't, it's going to be a rough marriage. And also, one thing I taught about my son, and I told him that if he ever abused his wife like we were abused, I would kick him out, me and his wife, out of the house for a week or so. So he always took that in mind, because you don't abuse anybody. She's not to abuse you, but you are not to abuse her.
I want to get back to our video. We're lighting the candle, folks. We're lighting the candle. The key issue in America is the family. Yeah, there's a lot of distractions, but if we get all these things fixed and we get all of these things in order and we have them in place, they're going to be filled with people. And if those people don't understand the difference between right and wrong, as a matter of fact, they have an upside down, bizarre world opinion of right and wrong, what do you have? They'll just create new symptoms. Work them together. And you don't have to do it through the Natural Family Foundation. Find another family organization. I don't care. Find another, whatever. I'm not recommending you try to do it alone, because you're going to need somebody to help you. But take a look at what we're showing you with this video and ask yourself, what happens to a family when the father isn't there? And that also begs the question when the mother isn't there, or when they're abusive. This America, to me, majors in child abuse. From no-fault divorce to what they're doing to our kids in the public indoctrination centers. Let's go ahead and continue the video, Mr. Anderson. B.J. Edwards, long Mr. Anderson, you're listening to your last call.
No rights. It was not so long ago that the divorce revolution was given a strangely positive cast in popular culture. If breaking up is better for parents, it was thought, it cannot be all that bad for children. What keeps parents happy should also keep children happy. How can an idea so wrong-headed have been so pervasive? In part, of course, it was a convenient, guilt-retarding rationalization for parents who were breaking up. Clearly, an abusive or highly dysfunctional marriage should end for the sake of all involved. However, for the problem of the absent father to be solved, there needs to be a revitalization in the institution of marriage, and a re-emphasis on the fact that the main reason marriage developed in the first place was to benefit children, not to fulfill or complete the adult partners. Society, in its wisdom, has recognized that in order to hold the father to the mother and child, a cultural tie had to be developed where a biological tie was weak. Marriage is society's way of signaling to would-be parents of children that their long-term relationship together is socially important. While marriage benefits children, committed fatherhood promotes the well-being and fulfillment of men. Family life motivates men to positively channel their aggressive energy, become socially productive, and cultivate the virtues of honesty, trust, self-sacrifice, and discipline that are necessary to support and become a role model for their children. In his book, A Sense of Well-Being, the psychologist Angus Campbell notes that in terms of overall life satisfaction, the most well-off males are fathers of grown children who are still married to their wives. The unhappiest, on the other hand, are divorced men and unattached men who have no wife or children. As men have more difficulty forming social relationships than women, a man without a wife and children is often a man without any close relationships at all. It is not just that particularly healthy and competent and morally upright persons are more likely to marry, but that marriage actually promotes health, competence, virtue, and personal well-being. There is a civilizing effect for men in merely being in the company of women and children, an environment which typically promotes life-enhancing values. With the continued growth of fatherlessness, we can expect to see a nation of men who are, at worst, morally out of control, and at best, unhappy, unhealthy, and unfulfilled. But it is ultimately children who suffer the most from an absent father, and as children are the future of society, society suffers by extension. Absent fathers translate into broken children, and broken children are at risk of growing up to be broken men and women who perpetuate societal dysfunction. What society does to its children, so will its children do to society, the Roman statesman Cicero observed, and as Popenoe concludes, strong families with involved fathers in lifelong marriages are irreplaceable for a strong and stable moral order, for adult well-being, and ultimately for the well-being and success in life of their children. If we continue down the path of fatherlessness, we are headed for social disaster. In the final analysis, every father counts. Learn more about our membership, access transcripts, and the art we use in the videos by visiting academyofideas.com.
You know, before you get married, I'm talking to the men out there, there ought to be 3 courses you take. One is how to be a good husband. 2 is how to be a good father. And the 3rd is how to give for dummies. And they all be required before you ever even consider getting married. But love at first sight, right? Having no idea what marriage means, what a commitment, a lifetime commitment means, you enter into that relationship. And then 50% divorce rate, children without their biological mothers and fathers, abused children. Children are sent to indoctrination centers where they're told that life has no meaning, morals are relative, man, not God, is the measure of all things, and the state's your daddy. Boom, 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 boom. 12 years of that. And we start them early. Yeah, we start them early. Start them early so they'll trust that institution we're sending them to, right? Yeah. Yeah. Your mom and dad take you there so you trust them, right? And your mom and dad say, hey, trust your teachers. And then teachers repeat that, trust the teachers first. And if we tell you not to tell your mom and dad something, don't tell your mom and dad something. You know, I'm still amazed at this, but I'm not amazed at it at the same time. I think of Columbine and some of the other school issues that we've had with children. 2 10-year-old girls, 2 11-year-old girls, 4 girls in school conspired to kill their 11-year-old male fellow student. Think about that. One was going to bring the knife. One was going to do it. One was going to watch. One was going to lure the boy, who evidently, with one of the girls, there was a relationship breakup or something. 11 years old, 10 years old. Really? Seriously. And the only reason that didn't happen is that one child overheard it and told the school about it, and the school did something about it. 10 and 11-year-old children. And when Columbine and the other school shootings and killings occurred, I made the statement, especially after Columbine, that I'm not surprised more of this is happening. Again, we teach children in our government-run indoctrination centers, life has no meaning. Think about that 15-year-old gentleman that JC was talking about. Has no father. If he has no father, what does life mean to him? He's missing a huge part of his life. Huge part. Can JC replace it? I don't know. How's it going to be replaced? Man, if you put yourself, listen, I believe in prayer, okay? But I also believe that God established laws, natural laws, spiritual and physical. And if you purposely put yourself or your child or somebody else in a position where something bad can happen, something bad could happen. And we can't expect God to be a cosmic genie. We have to take some responsibility here with our own children, maybe with our nieces or nephews, maybe with a neighbor child. But what we do to children here is just absolutely amazing. Get them to question their sex. Are you kidding me? Really? Listen, children have very sensitive feelings, and it happens at some sensitive ages. And if the wrong person comes in or the wrong situation presents itself, what's going to happen? You prayed, and then you looked the other way. You stuck your head down that ostrich hole. If there is ever a need to go to a nation and tell them about Jesus Christ, I would say that America is probably number one on that list. Yet, we send men and women and families overseas to tell them about Jesus, while a young 12, 13, 14-year-old boy or girl have body parts removed. And we're afraid to say something because, well, they may not come to Jesus because we've offended them or we've disagreed with them. We need to create an environment, folks, where Christian men and women, where Christianity can be welcome in the marketplace of ideas. We need to do that. There's a lot of ways to do it, but you have to do. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Well, there's a lot to think about what you were just saying, and just starting with that neighborhood chat box that you're in observing, and their the general attitude towards just the word Christian, is very disturbing. But and I'm also thinking about how JC, he makes himself available to these young
he does. Yes.
And that's an example of what members of the church ought to be involved with, inviting these kids to work on their bicycle or bring something over. What's a dad do? He teaches his children how to use a hammer or how to fix a broken, I don't know, something broken, or little projects around the house, or toss baseball out in the front yard, and or throw a football, something to engage in time. Take them fishing, doing these activities. A kid sitting in his room 24/7 with nothing but electronic device feeding his brain with who knows what. I don't know what these guys get into on these
AI
and things for. Well, AI, that's a whole nother topic. We need to do a couple of shows on that one. That's very, very dangerous.
But
we don't even know if what we're seeing is real anymore.
Amen. And that's kind of scary. I know you got a 2-minute warning coming up here, and we got to get ready. We got to do our exercises and get ready for our guest Mike Kerr, because we're gonna have to be prepared for him. Hey, folks, fathers, please look at this video. Go to other videos. Do your research and recognize that it's critical that the fathers be in the child's life. And I'm not talking about every other Saturday. I'm not talking about if you're going to get a divorce, if you have to have that divorce, if you can't take it any longer, okay? Don't let a judge tell your children when they can see their father or their mother. That's abuse as well.
Go in with a good plan and
exactly.
Think it through. And I could go on about that too, but make sure that you have a plan, not just that you're going to take a knee-jerk reaction to the situation.
Well, most of us can, unfortunately. Most of us can, Mr. Anderson. Most of us know what it means to be in a divorce situation. Most of us know what it means to have parental abuse or absence of a parent. Most of us know that. And most of us feel that pain and those needs and those vacuums. So let's do something about it. Does it mean something to you? You see a need there? Again, if you see a need, that's your calling.
We'll talk more on the other side. I'm going to the 2-minute warning.
All right. Go ahead.
Lance, a religion cannot be native to any land. There are Chinese Jews. I've met them. There are Vietnamese Jews. I've met them. They're not native to the land of Palestine. There are African Jews. They're not native to the land of Palestine either. There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land. As a Roman Catholic, I have no right at all to the land of any other Roman Catholic anywhere in the world. Even to state that proposition demonstrates its complete absurdity. You can convert to Judaism I'm wearing a hat. The reason I'm wearing a hat is because I was viciously assaulted. I was viciously assaulted by a manager in the BBC who had recently converted to Judaism. Now, it's fine. I love all religions. But you can't say I've now converted to Judaism and therefore I have a right to go to the land of Palestine and live in the house of someone whose ancestors have been living in it for thousands of years. Again, merely to state that truth is to demonstrate the absurdity of the propaganda to which you allude, to which you refer.
Eating too much salt causes...
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Like it or not, we're back for another hour. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. I'm the national director of an organization called naturalfamilystrong.com. You know, it's said that God does not call the qualified, but equips the called. I came from a very broken home. And I got into the initial relationship and had children and then got divorced. And then fortunately, I've been married for 46 years to a wonderful woman and have had children in that relationship. So what am I doing as the director of the natural family? I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm prone to that. My father was an abuser. He didn't want anything to do with me. I went off onto the sex and the drug or sex and alcohol community, trying to fill that vacuum. And then I get tapped on the shoulder and I'm supposed to do this Natural Family Foundation. I still got questions, Lord. What's going on here? I say that as part of an introduction to our guest today. Mike Kerr is one of those individuals, rare individuals, who got bit by the righteous bug, my term, and became a doer. One of our favorite species here, by the way, at Last Call. Mike's journey goes from Wall Street to living in the streets, then to redemption. He was in a deep hole. And something or somebody reached down and grabbed him and pulled him out. Mike, welcome to Last Call, brother.
Brother, thank you so much. Mr. Edwards, I just deeply appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. It's an honor to be with you guys. And listen, praise God for what you guys are doing. It's the single most important, let me repeat that, the single most important mission that you can have. The court systems, the family court, what America has done to marriage is a hot mess, period. And I urge people that are listening to this today to get involved. Don't just sit back on the couch and say, oh, somebody should do something about this. Do it. It's up to all of us to take a stand. And I'm so grateful for what you guys are doing.
Thank you. And you know, we're probably going to end the program now because it's not going to get any better. Mike, I'm by trade, I'm an executive recruiter, so I'm going to want to know about your background. I want to talk about here the Watchman and what you're doing there, which I love. But starting off in life, we're talking about family. What kind of a family situation did you come from, Mike?
That's a very good question. I had a wonderful family upbringing. Mm-hmm. My father was a World War II vet who fought in the Pacific, and he was hard. I mean, he let you know that when he told you to do something that you needed to do it right now, not after you played your video games or talked to your girlfriend or whatever it was. It meant right now, you know. And it was my mom was a stay-at-home mom. You know, they were married until the day they died. And I always knew growing up that I had that family foundation there.
Mm-hmm.
I had a brother and sister. My brother was 12 years older than I was, and my sister was 10 years older than I was. And, they always introduced me as their self-made grandchild, which, whatever, I mean, it used to drive me crazy, but it is what it is. And so as I grew up, I competed with my brother and sister who were 10 and 12 years older. So it was a tough competition.
Good practice, though. Good practice.
Yeah, but it was a great upbringing. It truly was, and my mom was the matriarch of the family, no doubt, So my dad was very successful. He was the vice president of back then what was called Ma Bell. And we moved a lot, but it was always a very comfortable situation. The one thing that was bizarre, and I don't know what their deal was with this, but I was raised in what I call the church of whatever looked good. So I was Methodist, Presbyterian, Episcopal. They even wanted me to go to the Catholic Church because they thought the CCD thing was really cool. That never happened. But, I always was grounded in a foundation that God existed. I didn't know anything about it really, other than the stuff I learned in Sunday school, where it was basically taking felt figures and sticking them on a felt board of a little thing of Jesus and some sheep and stuff like that. So that was the extent of it. Later in life, things changed for me. My brother and I started a company called Mariachi Fine Foods. We were the first people in the country to put tortillas in resealable bags, and it was a big deal. It was run, bling, bling. And then I started into a career in the financial industry, working for a major brokerage firm. And from that, I went into commercial real estate and did very well. And I was a pig, man. I was a horrible, awful sinner, just a pig. And money was everything. The checks were all coming signed by God, as I felt. And, when you do live that life, God changes it on a dime. I got involved in a serious car accident, the first of many in my lifetime, but I got addicted to prescription painkillers, Valium. And that was back before, they had all this computer stuff. So I had like 5 doctors running, and I'd get all these prescriptions for hundreds of pills. And I'd sit there and do my business and eat these things all day long and function until it stopped working. My wife at the time, a wonderful woman, she and I got divorced, and we had a beautiful child. And we fell into that. I got into that family court system. And I mean, where in the world, if you think about it, did we come up with family court? Why do we need a court to run our families when we have God? God lays out the rules for marriage, not some stupid court in America. What the court system did was create an industry. It's very difficult for guys to get out of, and in many cases, women. But my life blew up. So I ended up homeless on the streets of Los Angeles. And I bounced around down there, going from mission to eat and try and get warm. And it was, people ask me, wow, what's it really like to be homeless? I said, go down to a McDonald's and sit out there and wait for someone to go throw their hamburger away in the garbage can and then reach in that garbage can to get your food. It's really hard to do the first time, but after that, it's the way you eat. That's the sheer depravity of what being homeless really means. Eventually, I ended up sitting in front of a very famous restaurant in downtown Los Angeles called Philippe's, French dip. My dad used to take me there as a kid when he worked in downtown Los Angeles for the phone company. And I sat out there completely dejected. I mean, at the end of the road.
At wit's end. You were done. It's not going to get worse. Just you can't wait till it ends, right?
That's it. My prayer, what I would pray to God was, Lord, either save me or kill me. And I'd go out, I'm telling you guys, man, I would go out to freeway bridges and think about jumping, or down to the train tracks and think about jumping in front of one of the metro links. You know, I just wanted it all to end. But I was, and still am, a hopeless optimist. You know, so, you know, I had been sleeping one night in the alcove of all things, a Korean church. And I had passed out. And during the night, some other homeless person stole my shoes and my socks. And so I woke up with no shoes and no socks, and I wandered around downtown Los Angeles for a couple of days, barefoot. And I ended up sitting outside of Philippe's at that moment, so dejected, like you said, just
can't get any worse. Can't get any worse.
Hopelessly lost. And I asked God one more time to either kill me or save me. Shortly thereafter, a young kid came up to me and handed me a pair of sandals. And he said, "You look like you need these way more than I do." And he gave them to me, and I put them on, and I was looking down at them, and I'm like, whoa, I'm styling now. And I looked up, and he was gone. Nowhere to be found. So I sat there for a little bit longer, and this guy came out to me in a business suit, all ready to start his day, and he said something to me that just cut me to the core. He said, "I don't normally give bums like you money, but for some reason today, I'm compelled to give you just $10. And I was like, oh, Lord, thank you. I have $10. I can go down the street and get a bottle of vodka. And I looked up to thank him, and he was gone. Just gone. But instead of taking that $10 and hitting the liquor store, I decided that I was going to sit down on a bus bench and collect my thoughts. Pretty soon a bus pulled up. And when the bus pulled up, for some reason, it was if somebody was pushing me on that bus. I got on that bus and rode it to the end of the line because it was hot out that day. The bus was cool. And when we got to the end of the line, which was down in Santa Monica, it was actually right down by Lincoln Boulevard, Venice Beach area. I got off that bus and walked out, and there was a lady standing in the doorway of a place with a cigarette dangling out of her mouth. She was all wrinkled and just, you know, just a cagey old broad. And she looked at me and she said, "We've been looking for you." And I was like, what is this all about?
Hold the thought right there. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to find out what the lady was looking for. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson. We're speaking with Mr. Mike Kerr.
Last call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life.
Mike, as you're telling your story, I'm thinking about in my life. There was times I never got to the point you got in terms of the street, but I did get down. There's several different ways to get down. Okay, and I could just sense God saying to me, "Well, have you had enough?" And of course, I would say, "Well, no, you're going to have to try a little harder." And He does, and He can. Okay, and if need be, He will. And I think I'm thinking about that as you're telling your story. Okay, so you're off the cool bus, you got your brand new shoes on, and you run into somebody and say, "Hey, we've been looking for you." So finish the story.
So I went up to her and I said, "What's up with that?" And she said, "Come inside." And what happened was it was a program to get people off the street and to get them back into the world. And for some unknown reason, I said, "Yes, I need help." And they worked with me and they got me back. I did like god awful jobs, man. I was pulling shingles off of roofs and stuff like that, but it was work, and I could live there and stay there and they'd feed me. And it led me to the point where I started back. Now, it wasn't easy because I still had to go to jail. I talked to a wonderful guy yesterday by the name of Mondo de la Vega, who's going to be speaking at the conference. He works for Jim Baker and preaches up in Branson, Missouri. And he was a gang member, and he wrote a book called From Gangster to Grace. And I mean, this guy's on fire for the Lord. And he and I were talking. We were in the same jail in downtown Los Angeles called it's called the Towers. It's heinous. It's brutal. The guards beat people on a daily basis. Once I witnessed a young Hispanic kid just get beaten brutally by the guards for making a cross out of strings that he had torn from his blanket. And it's like being in hell. But I got through all of that. And I was in Palmdale, California, of all places. And I had been in a county-run rehab facility in Acton, California. It used to be a Japanese internment camp. And I got out of there and went to a halfway house. And I was really beginning to come to Jesus at that point. And I went to a church service. And at the church service, the pastor told the congregation something that I don't advise anybody do, but I did it. He said, "You need to reach out to everybody you've wronged and tell them how sorry you are and not care what they say in return." And I was like, well, you know what? What do I have to lose, man? I'm in a halfway house up here. I'm pulling shingles off of roofs, digging ditches. What do I have to lose? So I sent an email to a gal that I had dated in high school. And I told her, I said, we had dated all through high school and early college, and then we went our separate ways. And I sent her this email and I said, "Are you the same Jeannie Moore that went to Dana Hills High School and USC?" And that's all I said. And then I sent it. And to be honest with you, I felt like a creep, but I got an email back from her and she said, "I thought you were dead." And we started communicating and talking. And it's been 20 years now that we've been married. And it's been a wild journey filled with Christ. And the thing is, you never know what's going to happen. You can think, I didn't think I was worthy of doing what I do today, any of it, but God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And believe me, back in my day, we had Rolodexes. And back, God calling me was like being at the last ticket in the Rolodex. and saying, man, I'm out of people to call. I got to call this guy. And all I heard in a very audible way was, gather my people, nothing else. And I was like, what the heck, man? How do you realize who you're talking to? Of course he did. But we started Hear the Watchman 10 years ago under the premise of just that, gathering my people, his people, and providing hope and a place to fellowship and hear the messages from outstanding speakers like Coach Dave Dobbenmeyer, Jamie Walden, Henry Groover. The list goes on and on. Dr. Michael Lake, Russ Dizdar when he was alive. And it's been a phenomenal journey for us. But it's all because of God. And it's not easy, you guys. I mean, we've been persecuted. Why not? Look what happened to Jesus. But if you stay the course and you remain mission focused, you can accomplish anything. Doesn't matter what a hot mess you were. Look at me. I mean, you mentioned that you were addicted to things. I was addicted to everything under the sun except sex. And that was only because it never presented an opportunity to me, I'm sure. But God saves us.
Yeah, amen. Mike, you've jumped, and it's a good time to jump. We want to talk about your current mission, and that is hearing the Watchman. And you've gone through a lot of troubled times. You've run across your life's mate again, if that's a fair statement to make. And why did you make the jump to hear the Watchman? What prompted you to do that?
It was simply because I was sleeping one night and I had a dream, which my wife said was a prophetic vision, where I distinctly heard the voice of God said, gather my people. And I woke up and I was confused and dumbfounded. And I had started my journey. I had gone to a conference in Bozeman, Montana, with my wife, and it was called the Whitestone Remnant. And my wife came to me and asked me if I wanted to go to this conference with her. And, she had started really going down the rabbit hole, man. She was listening to the Hagmans and Steve Quayle. And I'd come home from work and she'd be there, like dinner wouldn't be ready. And she'd be, I can't do anything until I'm done watching the Hagmans, which was like a 3-hour show, And I came home one day and went to pull the car into the garage, and there was a big pallet of stuff in there and a big box with a solar generator in it. And, I came in the house and I said, what the heck is all that crap? And she goes, we need a power generator because the grid's going to go down, and we need all that. So it's all a bunch of prepared food and flour and rice and beans, and we got to have that to be prepared. And I'm like, oh man, she's gone off the deep end. So she says, you want to go to this conference? And I said, where is it? And she goes, it's in Bozeman, Montana. And we lived in Dana Point, California at the time.
Good place to fish.
Yeah, it's a great place to fish. Trust me. I spent a lot of time. We had a boat, a lot of time out on that boat. So I knew it was in Bozeman, Montana, and I love to fish. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's the schedule of this thing? And she's going to be busy from like 9 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night every day. And I'm like, I can go fishing. Some of the best fishing in the world up there.
Yeah.
And she'll leave me completely alone because she'll be busy at this conference. And we drove, which was another miracle because we were exposed to Idaho, Montana on the way up, and it was just beautiful. And so we get there and we arrive, and I said, listen, do not, she said, I want you to come in with me. I said, that's fine, but do not leave me standing there alone like you always do when we go to events like this, because you know I don't like events like this. And on the road up, she had told me, like, oh, Steve Quayle's going to be speaking there. Russ Dizdar. There's this guy, Coach Dave, I hear, that's going to be there. And, you know, I was like, yeah, right. Bunch of these nutcases that you listen to every night on the Hagman show. And she said the Hagmans will be there. And I'm like, no, you know, I'm as fast as I can get out of there. I'm fishing. So sure enough, we go in. And she disappears, you know, and she had the keys to the room. And so I was like, just standing around. And I was raised with the motto, never give up and always help people. So I'm standing there, you know, and this guy comes in and he's sweating and he's trying to carry all this stuff in. And it was, I just couldn't let him do it without helping him. So I said, brother, do you need some help? And he said, oh, I really could. Can you help me set up my book table over here? I said, sure. So I helped him set up the book table. And I put all these books out there, and I started looking at the books and stuff. And he said, hey, I got to take off and go get some more stuff. Can you just watch my stuff here? And by the way, there's a backpack right there. There's a Glock 9mm in there in case you need it. And I'm like, I'm at a Christian conference. Why do I need a Glock here? You know? And so I put the books out, and people started coming up to me and starting asking me which was the best book. And I pick a book up and look at the back cover of it. And it's this one right here is really interesting. It's about giants and Nephilim and underground military bases in the Arctic. And I'm like, this one's a good one. They start handing me money, you know. And so this guy comes back, and I say, dude, look, like all these people came up, and I got like a couple of grand here in cash. You need to take it, you know. And so he took it. He said, oh, thank you very much. And he goes, I'll be back in like 10 minutes. And, you know, one more time he's left. So I'm talking to all these people, and my wife comes over, and she says, do you have any idea whose table you're at? I said, not a clue. Some guy named Steve Quayle, according to these books. And she goes, it is Steve Quayle. Do you know what a big deal that is? I said, no. And I said, besides that, he's one of the nutcases on Hagman that taught you that's why you bought all this stuff that's in the garage. And the miracle that occurred was I never did go fishing. I sat there and listened to Steve Quayle talk to people. I listened to Pastor Langford, some other really wonderful people, and I ended up going to every session. So I didn't go fishing. I got fished. Long story short, Steve Quayle baptized me in the pool that weekend, and off I started. And Jeannie and I had done a very large-scale event in Orange County, California, called Snowball Express, where we brought 900 widows and children out to Disneyland for 3 days and a big party, all expenses paid. They were all the widows of the fallen. And I got involved working with the Marine Corps as a contractor and taking care of the families of the fallen. And it was an amazing event. And we had everything donated, hotel rooms, airfare. Oakley Corporation had a big party for them. We took them to a big mall and took them shopping, and UPS took everything that they had been given there and shipped it home to them for free. And people lined the streets showing their support. They didn't support the war. Most of us didn't, but they supported these families. So that we turned that over to Gary Sinise and the Gary Sinise Foundation. And so now we're kind of thinking, well, I was tired of the secular world. I was tired of working in it. And I told my wife, I said, it's just a backstabbing business, man. It's just, I don't want to do it anymore. So we wanted to go to the next conference, but it never happened. They had some internal problems with it. Steve decided not to do it. So Jeannie and I said, well, why don't we do one? And so we started the first Hear the Watchman conference.
Okay, and I want to stop you there. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'll get back with a question about Hear the Watchman. It's a good transition. That's what we need to be talking about. That's where we need to go. BJ Edwards along Mr. Anderson. This is your last call. We've found another doer. Interesting.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Here in the Watchman.com, Mr. Mike Kerr is with us this morning, and interesting story as usual. His wife has got him activated now. She's been working on him. She finally got him activated. He's going to get involved in the culture. So, Hear the Watchman. What was your goal? What is your goal, Mike?
My goal is twofold. One is to bring the younger generation in. And two is to get the remnant organized, get them together, get them to know one another in fellowship, and make friends across the country that they'll have forever.
You're trying to unite Christians?
Christian.
Oh, boy. Go ahead.
And it has we've been doing it for 10 years. I think we've done like 20 conferences, and we did them with Tom Horn. We produced conferences for Tom Horn at Skywatch TV. And Tom and I became very close. He was instrumental in me continuing the fight. And when he passed, I always wanted to do something for him. So Remnant Rising 2025 is being held in Springfield, Missouri, and August 22nd through the 24th. And it's dedicated to the memory of Tom Horn. And it's a chance for people to come out that Tom Horn touched and give thanks to him in spirit and give thanks to his family. Joe Horn, his son, who took over for him, is one of the speakers. Nita Horn, his wife, will be speaking for the first time since he passed. Donna Howell will be there. Derek and Sharon Gilbert from Skywatch will be there. Kevin Shipp, a CIA insider, will be there. Stuart Rhodes, who was one of the J6 detainees, recently commuted. His sentence was recently commuted by Trump, will be there. Mondo de la Vega, Jamie Walden. Jamie's
a trip. We've had him on the program a couple of times. That man is special. That's all I can say. He's special.
It is. He's on fire, and he's like he's my closest brother in Christ and the little brother I never had. We've got Marine Corps backgrounds together. He served, I served them. And I'll tell you, if we were actually brothers and lived in your community when we were young, you guys would have been in a lot of trouble. So be grateful we're not really brothers. But
they had me. They had me, Mike.
Okay, good. So he will be there speaking. I think I said Mondo de la Vega, who's off the hook, crazy great. Nathan Reynolds, who just has an insane story, and he's just so filled with the Lord. And Tracy Tennant, and the list goes on, and you can just see it by going to the website, which is hearthewatchman.com, and you can see everything that's going on. But the thing is, you guys, we'll be announcing a huge announcement on July 1st, and I'll just hint at it, that on that day you will be able to, if you promise that you're not coming. You'll be able to see the conference. But the thing is, if and most of our people do, and I'm sure you do, they follow and study the Bible. Gideon talks about the 300.
Mm-hmm.
And the 300 were the ones that were watching to make sure that the kingdom wasn't invaded by the enemy. And they were deprived and they were suffered and all that. And God made them a promise. And his promise to them was, you will be able to see me work. That was their reward. Can you imagine seeing God work? And that's the thing. If you really want to see God work, you need to get off your rear ends and get to conferences like this one so you can fellowship with people and see what God's doing. You can watch it online, but it's not the same. So you want to get out there and be a part of it. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a discount code. So you can have $20 off your purchase, and that discount code will be the name of this show. That will be the discount show code, and it will be the name of the show again. I'm sorry.
Last call. I'm sorry. You talking
Last
about
call. That's right. Last call 20. And you use that, you can get $20 off your purchase. Now, the other way you can find us, you guys, is we have a YouTube channel that has just blown up. And that channel in the last 28 days has had almost 200,000 views. There's like, I don't know, 40,000 subscribers. And what we do on that, we have a show called On the Wall that we're changing to Last Watch because we believe that's the times we're in.
I like that last thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. And kind of like the show. And the thing is about that, you guys, if you go there, there's over 1,000 videos on there of speakers who gave presentations. Jamie Walden, Henry Groover, Russ Dizdar, the late Russ Dizdar. I mean, it's just filled with stuff and information that you guys can watch. All you have to do is Google, Hear the Watchman, MEN Journey, YouTube, and you will be directed right there. And you just subscribe, click the bell. You'll know when we're dropping stuff. Our shows drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And it's just a wealth of information. And you don't have to pay for it. It's free. So, go avail yourself of that. But the most important thing is come out to the Remnant Rising 2025 in Springfield, Missouri, August 22nd through the 24th. Use your code to get a ticket. And just look at the speakers, Derek Gilbert, Jamie Walden, it's Sharon Gilbert, Nita Horn, Joe Horn, Donna Howell. Another great friend of mine is Dave Hodges from the Common Sense Show. He'll be there. Vicki Joy Anderson, Tracy Tennant. It's just insane what you'll hear. And one of the speakers, Randy Conway, is deeply involved with families in America and freeing them from the evil beast system that we are persecuted under. So I urge you guys, to come out and be a part of this. You can ask anybody that there's testimonies. You can ask Coach Dave Daubenmeier, man. He's been with us since 2015, I think it was. He's been almost everywhere. And we need you guys in the remnant body. We can't rise without you. And once we rise, brother, look out, because we're going to put God first in everything we do. So that's the story on that.
And developing relationships is very important too. One of the things that we we have a tendency to do is we get so excited about what we believe in that and I'm really guilty of this because I'm a bottom line type of guy. I'm just going to approach somebody and I might say, "Well, do you believe in God or not?" That type of approach. And that's not. I've learned that you've got to start off conversations. First of all, you have to develop relationships, and sometimes the best way to start a relationship with somebody is to ask a question. That's what Jesus did a lot. And I might say to them, do you believe that you were created, or do you believe a man was created or he evolved? Questions like that to start the conversation off. Or you can always ask them about their family, but that's a dangerous conversation because if you start asking somebody about their family, you're going to be there a while because they're going to want to talk and they're going to tell you about their family. And it's just, but developing relationships, personal relationships are best. We'll meet soon, Mike, but we have a long distance relationship via this wonderful communication system we have now. But getting having a cup of coffee or eating a dinner with somebody like yourself, or somebody like me, if you can stomach it, just get to know me. It's not always easy, but look, you're talking to people that have been in the battle. You're talking to people that went through hell to get to where they are today. So you're gonna feel something. You're gonna feel a strength. Please do not let that put you off. Find out where that strength is coming from. Start finding out what that individual is about, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised. A lot of the people that I meet, Jamie Walden, I don't know whether I want to meet him in person or not. I might blow up if I get to meet him in person. I've had him on the program 2 or 3 times. I mean, that guy is a force. He is a force, and you can sense, you can feel it through the microphone, through the camera. It's just absolutely incredible. But developing relationships is what we don't do well as Christians. And the other thing we don't do well as Christians is work together. And the other advice I give is, yes, develop relationships, but you're going to have to find something you like about that individual or that group or that organization and let them know that first. Open the conversation up with that. Don't open it up with, well, I didn't like what you did there, or I don't like what you're doing here, or you're not perfect. You don't do this with regards to Jesus, or you don't do that, or you haven't been baptized properly, or they don't call us Christian denominations by accident, because we do like to denominate, and we can find so much difference between what they believe and what we believe. Well, we seemingly can find a difference, but I think when it really boils down to it, there's a strong commonality of what we're talking about in terms of developing relationships. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, and I'm doing all the talking. That doesn't work, does it? Go ahead, Mike.
Works fine with me. I mean, look, the important thing is, you guys, and what I pray for every night is to activate all of you. Nothing can be accomplished if you don't activate. And Natural Family has the perfect platform for you to get activated in your community. We've had people that come to the conferences that have started home churches across the country, even overseas. I mean, we have New Zealand, Australia, the UK, where people have just blossomed. Jamie Walden, when I met Jamie, someone called, well, actually, it was my wife. She'll shoot me if she hears this, and I don't give her credit for introducing me to Jamie. She said, there's this kid that you'll love. He was in the Marine Corps, and now he serves Jesus, and he wrote this book called Omega Dynamics, and he went back with his friends to Iraq and Afghanistan to protect the Christians from being beheaded.
That's a story.
And I looked at her and I said, you know what, man, I've been helping the Marine Corps for like over 10 years. And I said, I've met every crackpot mercenary that says they've done this and done that. I want to meet another one, like I want a hole in my head. And she said, I want you to just call him. And I said, look, I'll call him. as a favor to you. But I'm not going to invite him to be a speaker or anything. I'll talk with him. And so I called Jamie up, and I'm telling you, he said a couple of things right out of the gate. He never hung his hat on his Marine Corps service or any of the other insane great stuff he's done. Right out of the gate, he said how much it's a hot mess. That is a term that if you're a Marine, you heard so many times that you can't ever forget it. And it's just like a dead giveaway. So we started talking, and I'm like, I sat back in my chair and I'm like, praise Jesus, man. This guy is what Tom Horn and I have been looking for years. He's the one that can lead this fight because we're all getting old, And Jamie's wonderful. If you get the opportunity to meet him, and the thing is, JR, about our conferences, all the speakers are very accessible. We focus on fellowship. They're there for you to talk to one-on-one. They don't go hide in a green room, or they don't speak and then just leave. They're there. They have their books there. They have time. You can have breakfast each day with Derek and Sharon Gilbert or Jamie Walden. It's about activating, doing the same thing that Natural Family does. And, Coach Dave Daubenmire, I hate to keep dropping his name, but if you've never heard Dave Daubenmire speak somewhere, that man will get you up off the couch. As a matter of fact, it was him speaking at that first conference that I went to, where I sat back, and he said, "What's wrong with the men in these rooms? Why don't they get off their chairs and do something?" And I was like, okay, whoa, this guy is insane, and I am going to do what he says. Get up off your chair and make a difference. And that's what Natural Families does. But you got to do it, guys. You got to come to the conference and do it. Meet these guys, get motivated, get friends. Just the network is huge, but you have to take that first step. Nothing happens without that. And God will be in the room. I guarantee it. So, you guys have a great platform here, a well-needed platform to break people from the chains that the system has put on them and return to the biblical marriage, a man and a woman. Now there's a novel idea. And
what's a man? What's a woman? Come on.
Yeah.
What's a man? What's a woman?
Is it a he, she, it, what? But
they.
It's just important, you guys.
Hey,
activate and get busy in your lives. And as Christians, nothing happens if you don't make it happen. And that's a wonderful graphic right there. A wonderful graphic. Personally, I'm just glad that America now knows that there's a man that wears pants that runs our military machine, and not some thing that puts lipstick on and wears high heels. I mean, if nothing happened other than that, that's the bomb.
Let me tell you about conferences, folks. Okay, it's a starting point. It's not a stopping point. It's a starting point. Don't think that you go to this conference and you meet people and then that's it, you're done. That's starting. You're starting to develop relationships. You're learning about other people, what they're doing. You don't have to like all what they're doing of all the other people, but you're gonna meet some great people that have made incredible sacrifices, put their life at risk in a lot of cases, put their careers at risk, put everything at risk to step out and do what they're called. They saw a need and they stepped out and did it. So don't sit back and criticize somebody because of what they're doing. You can criticize somebody because of what they're not doing, please. and motivate them, please. And as far as the natural family goes, the family is a thermometer of any nation. It is a thermometer. The natural family is a litmus test. It shows you where a nation is. And we don't do very well on that litmus test, folks. We have a vehicle. It's not the end all, but we have a vehicle that you can use. I call it a tank to drive through some of this social insanity that we're going through right now. And that's what we want you to look at. I've said it before. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us that the family isn't the key to civilization. Tell us, and tell us when you mess with it and you break it up, that's good for a nation. Tell us that, because it isn't. It is the key. And Mike, I appreciate your appreciating what we're doing. That means a lot.
It's when I came across you guys again, it was Coach Dave said, you got to talk to this man. And I said, well, he's doing what? And I was like, well, I want to do everything we can to help, so, it's getting back to the foundation, the biblical foundation of what's right, wrong, and good. And you guys, you just have to do it.
It's not hidden, Mike. It's not hidden. God created natural laws. We see, we sense, we smell, we hear, we taste natural laws every day. When we wake up, when we go through our life's experiences, they're there. And I know that because I tried to prove the Bible wrong. And what I was trying to do was prove nature wrong, because the Bible records nature very accurately, by the way. Natural laws. You're without excuse. They're there. And you've given a sense, you were given a software package that tells you the difference between right and wrong. You know it and you see it. I often say that, you can jump off the end of a building or off the end of a cliff, and you can identify as not falling, but guess what? Natural laws are going to take over. You're going down. I'm going to let you finish this out, Mike. Anything you want to leave us, especially with the folks or with the panel? And does the panel have any questions while we got Mr. Mike Kerr on the line? Just unmute yourself if you do. Betty, go ahead, please. Hang on, Betty. There you go. Maybe not. I can't get my screen to. There we go. It won't let me do that. There you go. I couldn't add her to the screen. Sorry.
That's okay. We don't want to break your camera. But a great testimony there, Mike. Coach Dave and JR, they got me out of my shell. They are such warriors for God. And I'll tell you one thing about the people that is with JR and Coach, they're doers. They're not just talkers and sitting on their duffs constantly. They're doers. So I just have to thank them for getting me out of my shell. And Jamie Walden's an amazing person. He's a warrior of God. I've spoke with him. He knows me. We don't talk often, but, events are great. But you got to do more than just events. You got to go out there and fight the cause, And I do go to a lot of events. They're going to slow down here in a bit because of my husband. But even Dick, going out there with this Sharia crime, that's amazing to go against such a evil group. So keep doing what you're doing, Mike.
Dick Manasari, go ahead, everybody. Please. Dick Manasari, go ahead, please.
I just want to make a great time this morning. I just want to make a specific action item request for fathers. If your child is going to get on a yellow school bus on Monday, stop it. You have to begin to think about the biblical messages. Families teach children, not to state schools with all the hot mess that is there. Take your kid, put them in, and you are a homeschool with your wife, and you can do it. My wife and I were fortunate. You have a chance as a father, whether you're going to teach math or history, to interact with your children on a daily basis in an educational way. It's a gift to you as a father. So that's my recommendation. Take them out of the school, homeschool, and be an active father homeschooling your children.
Well said. Thank you, Dick. Norm, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Brother Mike, I appreciate it. You're the perfect example that God's real, you know, to take you from where you were, you know, to bring you to where you are. And of course, you're absolutely right about relationships. I used to tell people as a counselor, the most important thing in the whole wide world and nothing else really matters is relationships. And, you know, that's where it's at. And we've got to build relationships in order. And that's what Jesus did. He built relationships and then I think he kind of earned the right then to speak, you know, in a sense. So God bless you and all you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, I want to leave you guys. I didn't mention it earlier, but on a positive note, that little child, that little boy that I had was my first wife when my life blew up. I didn't speak to him or talk to him for years until he turned 18 years old, because you guys can all imagine why. But today, he and I connect with each other every day. He's a wonderful young man. He's got a beautiful wife and 3 beautiful little kids. And I'm a grandfather, and it's only can that happen with the Lord Jesus Christ. It's the only way that could have happened. I should have been dead, but now I have all these rewards that the Father has given me, but it's not free. You have to do the deal. You just got to do the deal. Don't you think, JR?
Amen. Footsteps in the sand when I look back and where I could be, what could have happened to me. I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Mike. I appreciate what you're doing, the folks that you're meeting, what you're trying to do, what you're accomplishing, not what you're trying to do, but what you're accomplishing. It starts with those relationships and then spring out from there. Task them, Mike. Task them. After they get together, task them, number one, to work together, to support one another. Somehow, some way, maybe get that individual on your radio show or get that individual to talk to your group, or somehow, some way work together with somebody else that's in the business. They need to hear that you care about them. Listen, it gets awful lonely out here, and you don't think anybody else is listening or anybody else is watching. You just think you're all alone out there sometimes. You need to hear from other groups. It was a blessing when you contacted me, Mike, and it was a blessing when Coach did that referral. We don't do enough of that. Think of how empty your life would be, Mike, without me in it. Just think about that. Isn't that terrible? Anyway, I'm gonna shut up before I get myself in any more trouble. I appreciate all the participation today on our program, and please take that work ethic, that participation, and use it outside. Pat somebody on the back that's doing a good job and tell them, I like this about that. I like that about that. Please, they need to hear that. And listen, we're back to the giving thing, right? It is a gift to give. And but to put your hand on somebody's shoulder and say, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. I specifically like this. That doesn't cost you a lot. It doesn't cost you anything, but you will be rewarded. Mike Kerr, thank you very much. And good luck to you, brother. We'll talk soon. After the program today, we have some of the folks may stick around. So if you want to talk a little bit to them, fine. Otherwise, we're going to be signing off. This is BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This has been your last call. Pay attention.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.